I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace, find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the well-run suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders, pushing up just like these boulders. See conflict like it's water, so this mercy, take my chalice, seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers to give up.
Politics and sinners, they all the same.
Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my...
Good morning, 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 good morning. So this morning I kind of want to talk about strings attached when it came to federal funds, rising costs, and nonprofit scams exposed, right? Because that's what it's basically about. We're all seeing this in front of our eyes, and people really need to just pay attention. So with that being said, we always know we start off with independent music. So this morning I got D1, You a Star. And with that being said, I'll be right back.
To the next, I'm just out in space, specs.
Go ahead. Okay. I ain't got time to be going back and forth with people that really ain't trying to grow. They say the whole game negative, with negativity ain't winning no more. This that turn your whole life around music. I ain't scared, I ain't backing down music. I'ma call it how it is, you getting pimped. No, you ain't a boss, that's clown music. Rappers living a facade, you ain't making no money, go get you a job. I don't love this game, I don't love these streets, I don't love these fans more than I love God. When I tell the truth, they get them nervous. These people be empty beneath the surface. Told a man upstairs, I'm at your service. I don't love this paper more than my purpose. Thought I was worthless, walking around this earth just like a clown in a circus. But I turned this life round from a loss to a win, nothing given, I earned this. This world had me drowning, I learned how to swim. Now I wake up every day knowing I'm him. With God as my guardian, I'm gonna win. And if you ain't got the sauce, you can't pretend. From the gutter, they counted you out, but you changing your life, you really a star. You think you winning because you got rich off of sinning and bought you a crib and a car. You glowing up and some people be hating, but you ain't gonna stop what you came here to do. You from the gutter, they counted you out, but you changing your life, for that I salute. Go ahead, okay, go ahead, okay, go ahead, okay.
Represented to the next, I'm just out in space, specs.
I respect a fan who'll admit what they listening to is delicious poison. Shoot 'em, kill 'em, drug and thuggin'. Evil inside of your ears is vicious noise, and it's hypnotizing you, it's numbing you down, it's dumbing you down, then turning around and getting you hooked on it. You addicted, knowing it's wrong, but now you conflicted, cause you loving it. Give 'em another hit, cognitive dissonance, forming a covenant with the devil. Then they tell me I'm hating, but they think it's cool advancing with Satan, and they think it's cool to glorify all of till they notify you that one of your families or homies died. Now you glitching and twitching, you wanna cry, but you can't, cause now you gon' look soft, so you look lost. Why you shook, boss? At this part of the game, just another day. Or you sad, now you calling cats out to pray? Man, I need a change, it's time to grow. I respect that. I was one shoe, wanted something different, God came through. You from the gutter, they counted you out, but you changing your life, you really a star. You think you winning because you got rich off of sinning and bought you a crib and a car. You glowing up and some people be hating, but you ain't gonna stop what you came here to do. You from the gutter, they counted you out, but you changing your life, for that I salute. Go ahead, okay, go ahead, okay, go ahead, okay.
Represented to the max. I'm just out in space. Flex.
Hey, I'm just out here stating facts. So let's get into it, man. We're gonna get into something that I think a lot of people they think that it's more Republican in a way, but honestly, it's about saving people money, because I think if a lot of people knew what was going on, and you would see that it's both sides. So Newsmax, and people are gonna be like, oh, that's all I'm saying is listen to the lady. I'm not saying this is News Nation. I understand that all news agencies are political. What I'm asking you to do is put the politics aside and look at this as that it's not just Democrats, it's also Republicans, right? Because this is what big business when it came to this corruption, this waste. Because if a lot of people looked at 990 forms and you put it into, because I was doing the exact same thing that this lady was doing, but she was doing it on a bigger scale. I was just doing it in Minneapolis and Minnesota, just with the nonprofits here. And when it came to violence interruption, when it came to waste, feeding our future, and really our news media just got involved within the last couple months. But the streets have been talking about it, and I'm kind of glad to see. Actually, I'm more than kind of glad. What I hate is that people have turned it into political instead of looking at it like, hey, it's not just Democrats, it's also Republicans, because everybody gets paid in this. Everybody benefits, but the people. So with that being said, I want you to listen to this interview with Data Republican. And that's all I'm going to say. It's Data Republican. I'm not going to say that she's a hard R, a left R, a Connie, whatever. I'm just saying is that, that's what her name is on Twitter. And with that being said, here goes her interview.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse.
This data scientist, she goes by Data Republican. How much do you think is being wasted or stolen?
I would say it's over 100 billion. But what's more important is what they're doing with that money.
Are you ever scared? Because exposing things like that, the ways people are making big money secretly within our government, it seems like it could put you at risk. We're on our way right now to meet this data scientist. She goes by Data Republican. She's very, very concerned about her safety and security, so we're going to meet her at an undisclosed location. Her posts have been amplified by Elon Musk on X. She has a relationship with Elon Musk in Doge, and she is deaf, so we're going to use an interpreter for the interview. How did you get the attention of Elon Musk?
Okay, honestly, I don't know. You'll have to ask him, but I'm grateful. I have no idea how he found me. But one day, you just, I tweeted what everybody should. I just tweeted what I found, and then he tweeted everyone should follow the Data Republican. My jaw dropped to the floor. And I thought, what, is this real life? But I guess tech people find tech people. So since then, it's been just a whirlwind, moving fast since.
Has he been using any of the information you've discovered, specifically with Doge?
Wait. I want to be clear. I don't communicate directly with Elon. He found me and supports my work. But I have communicated with some people that are involved with Doge just on the side. And I don't want to say much more about that, but I have a working relationship.
Have you thought about working directly for Doge?
Yeah, I've thought about it. When I went to DC, the Doge people recruited me DC, but we have connected. But it's my personal feeling that I will have more impact where I am right now. And I think that's better for me and for the people to remain separate. And I think they agree with me.
What do you think to people who think that this data, these databases, these numbers have been out there for a long time, that they've been public for a long time, and that it's sort of like a publicity stunt that they're getting all this attention now?
That's just an ignorant assumption. Data does not equal transparency. I am a database expert, a database scientist. I am a kernel engineer, and the numbers do not lie. I have many patents on indexes and engineering databases. And the problem with the databases, it's like you have a gigantic book. Imagine your book has no index, no table of contents. So how do you find a word in the book? You can't. It's too big. There's too many words unless you read the entire thing. It's the same thing with the government database. What I did was I added the index to the book so that people can actually find the awards, what they're looking for. You have to understand, without AI, this would not be possible because the book is so large, nobody can sit down and read the entire thing.
So is it an AI algorithm that you came up with? Is that how you're able to find all of this data that other people haven't been able to find?
Let me think a moment about how to best answer that. Let me think about that.
Yeah, I know it's technical.
I use AI to analyze the Form 990s, that we can find. The award searches. People can search all of that. And what the AI does is it helps to figure out the connections. And the information's been out there. My website helps you search it, but the AI is what puts the connections together. And it helps me figure out the relationship. The other use of AI was back in December. And we used AI to read 1,000 pages omnibus, the omnibus bill. And so we use the AI to go through the omnibus bill and read those thousands of pages to help us understand, because thousands of pages of reading, one human, 10 humans.
I know your focus was USAID. What's next? Is there a certain part of the government now that you are really focusing in on?
Yeah, two things. So my project right now is to work on analyzing connections and relationships between people in the government, because if you research me long enough, you start to notice that they're all working together. They're all married. They're all in-laws. They know each other. They all sit on the same board for many years. And that's my project. To map those relationships and put it on my website.
Are you ever scared? Because exposing things like that, the ways people are making big money secretly within our government, seems like it could put you at risk.
Oh yes, we had to change the way we live entirely, quickly. But you know, that calls. Sometimes God calls you for a mission, and you must answer that call.
Republicans are in power right now, and, you know, President Trump created Doge. But do you think you're going to find a lot of corruption, not only with Democrats, but also with Republicans?
Oh, I already did. You said this structure. You see, the structure of the NGOs, the worst government-associated one, was invented during the communist regime during Reagan. And we did this in order to fight communism around the world, fight the spread of communism. And what they did was they ended up setting up a soft power structures to influence the world to stop the spread of communism in the 80s. Well, the communism that we were fighting. So they created a situation structure where the Republicans and the Democrats work together. And then they decided to create the NED, and it splits. So the NED is split into the National Democrats and then the International Republican Institute. Democrats, Republicans are both under the NED. And the NED was designed to influence the world to stop the spread of communism. So they thought it would be fair. We'll get some money to the Republicans, some money to the Democrats, so that when they influence the world, they're getting both perspectives. But so when the communism in Europe you're fighting fell, the NGOs did not disband. Somehow they got bigger. They got more money. They got more power. And now they've truly become, they label themselves the protectors of democracy. And now they believe that any challenge to them is challenging, quote unquote, democracy. But really, it's the democracy they set up in this soft power structure underneath our law.
And it's Democrats and Republicans?
Yes. I cannot tell you enough how much both are involved. It is everywhere. Now we even have members of Congress. So we have sitting members of Congress that actually sit on the NGOs right now. They vote in Congress for money for themselves, and they sit on the same NGOs that they're voting to get money. It is a huge conflict of interest, and it's buried very deep.
Is it all about the money?
I think that people, they're the way of good. Listen, I think they believe they're doing a good mission. I believe that they've told themselves that I think they truly believe that without their influence that the Western world will fall. And it means that their power is top priority. And that also means that obviously their finances are the top priority.
Right.
So yes, to answer your question, it is all about the money. But they tell themselves a good story, you know, all villains do.
Is there anything specific and new that you're finding recently that you can tell us about? Any certain groups or people?
Yeah, actually. So, recently, J.D. Vance,
right,
he did a speech in Europe, and he told the leaders, if you have a democracy, it means that you cannot censor people, period. Ooh, and that made a certain group of people very upset. But when I
Right.
researched all the people who were very loud about how upset they were, they all had connections to these NGOs that are financed by government money.
Damn.
One very interesting person, Norm Isaac. One very interesting person, Norm Isaac, wrote a lot about how to start, kick off, and announce a color revolution.
Damn.
Interesting that he has an NGO called yeah, I look my nose so I make yours. Yeah. Also, yeah.
Burst. This. But it's really cold there. This. Same. To be.
Okay. So. No. So Norm Eisen, he runs an NGO called State United Democracies Center. State United Democracy Center. It's actually full of big names like Janet Napolitano, Tom Ridge, Michael Steele. You know, many famous names are involved in this specific NGO. Now, that NGO accepts $17 million in private donation. So I was researching. What do they do? Like, with $17 million, I started researching. But the only thing I could find, and I wasn't digging, but the only thing that I found, they made a knockoff Muppet show. You think I'm kidding? They actually made puppets, Muppets.
Right.
Like knockoff puppets. And all the videos that they made with these knockoff puppets had less than 200 views. So I'm wondering, all those big names, all those famous people at the NGO, and the only thing they did was $17 million was make a terrible Muppet show.
Right.
They got money and they did something with that. It was just awful. Jim Henson would roll in his grave.
I saw the video on your ex. Of the Muppets.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And it was weird because all the videos have less than 200 views. They didn't even try to promote them with ads or anything. So where did the $17 million go?
Damn.
Big picture, with all the databases you're looking at and taxpayer money, how much do you think is being wasted or stolen?
Whew. What's it? If I had to guess, I would say it's over 100 billion. But what's more important is what they're doing with that money. They're using that money. They use that money to shape the world of governments. They use that money to disrupt countries, to influence the world. And what they do with that money is just wrong, especially when they take it for themselves.
Because the influence that they have from that money is from their own desires, not from a perspective of what the people are.
Has anyone tried to stop you?
No. You know, I would so try. People are just most people I've seen. They're just they're just trying to figure out if I'm a hoax or not. Really, I don't think it's. I don't think it's sexist or anything like that. But of course, there are some. I think sometimes they think it's a hoax because a woman writing all that code can't be real.
Right.
So it's funny. The most of the comments that I've seen is that they thought I was a man. They're all looking for a man behind this.
Right.
You have to be careful though with your security and your real identity. So you must be concerned.
I think the way puts I think it's up this we must
I think right now it's obvious. I'm getting some personal details, and I haven't really done a good job hiding my face, really. But we're just trying to buy time to have more security in place. But doing this work and it's public.
I'm just going back a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, how you were able to come up with these AI tools and know how to analyze the data this way?
So, like I said, I'm a database kernel engineer. And also I've learned machine learning algorithms. So I just have a good background for all the technical perspective. Also, I have experience with making geospatial data, which is how I started to make all of the maps. That's why I use the term map, because geospatial, it's a very large build. And so I'm just going to keep building and building and building to map this whole thing out.
Is this just the beginning?
I think there's so much more that can be done. Like I would like to add pack data or donations. There's a lot that can be added. This is only the start, barely scratching the surface.
Why you have the small r in data remodeling?
This is a big part.
It's because I am not a pardon loyalist. I do not blind follow the Republican Party. And since I figured out that the Republican Party is also corrupt, it's become it's an even smaller R. The numbers don't lie. This is not a partisan issue, and if the American people understood completely what we're finding, there would be outrage across the board.
I know one, Brian.
Okay.
If regular people are really busy, they got kids, they got jobs, they got grocery bills, why do you think they need to be paying attention to this at this moment right now?
Because the most important thing to understand about this is that all the politicians in DC you have to understand that the global politics is their only priority. They believe that the world is run through private NGOs, It's like playing Game of Thrones, really.
Good analysis.
And then they ignore everything that happens at home, right? That's why you never hear people, or politicians, I should say, that's why you never hear politicians talk about Hurricane Helene. You never hear them talk about healthcare. You never hear them talk about education, all of these things. The problems that actually impact the normal people. People need to understand that politicians, they don't care about that because they're all playing this game. It's the game of NGOs. It's the game of money and transferring power. And it's all about influencing foreign policy. Foreign policy influence is their world, which means home is not a priority.
For regular people out there, you know, busy with kids and jobs, but are interested in finding some of this waste, where do they start? How do they even begin?
Okay, I'd like you to go to my website, thedatarepublican.com, and you can research yourself other options to become involved in the primaries. You know, the primary elections have low participation.
Right.
So, okay. Like,
two things that people can do. First,
they go to the website.
So my website, thedatarepublican.com,
Which is
first, and start researching for themselves. There's many options that you can search. But the best action that you could do is the second. Vote in the primary elections.
What?
Please vote.
No.
Polling attendance is so low. In the end, we need to kick out all the dirty politicians from both parties.
If people showed up.
And if people showed up for the primary elections, it would actually be easy to do that. Because the only reason these politicians stay is because participation is so low. And I think if people learn from the website, learn where the waste is, they will want to participate more.
And just the last question I had, for so many people, politics is about emotion and which side they're on. For you, is all of this really just about the numbers? Do you just use the numbers?
Did you say that?
It's almost like you take the emotion out of it, it seems like.
Sis.
Yes, for me, I'm analyzing the numbers to see where the money goes. The numbers don't lie, right? And look, they don't always say what I want to hear either, but they do tell me the truth. And the other thing that's important to understand is that data is not transparency. AI doesn't understand everything either. It's important to double check all of things and research everything, even with my website.
Is it going to take us, the American people, in the end to really hold these politicians accountable based on some of the information you found?
Absolutely, yes. Vote in the primaries. Call your politicians. Call them out. When they vote themselves, they vote for their money because their money is their power.
Doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense.
We need to make sure they never receive another USA dollar again because those are our dollars.
Right.
If they have no money, they have no power. If the money returns to the people, the power returns to the people. We need to do everything we can to get the power back for the American people.
Right.
And only the American people can do that.
Damn.
Is there anything we miss that you think people need to know about?
It's this like I bet taste. Okay.
One thing that's important for everyone to know, it's not about left or right. Everyone is equally guilty.
Right.
Both parties are equally corrupt.
Right.
And the reason why,
Sister,
the reason why Trump had so much resistance
is it the president is it open during the swap?
because in 2016 he said he will drain the swamp.
Yeah.
And then
I think that the slogan
I think maybe there was more slogans at the time, but that was when
the thanks to something.
and that's when the NGOs started to show themselves. Sorry, I'm just rambling, but now we understand that the people who are yelling the loudest are the ones who probably have the most to hide.
Right. Ooh.
Yes, exactly.
So look at
And also another important thing is that the NGOs hate people knowing what they're doing. That's why they're always hiding. Their power depends on the fact that we don't know what's going on. They understand that if the American people knew what they were doing with our money, we would all absolutely have a revolution against them. And that's why they hide. And that's why they support censorship and secrecy. That's why they get offended when J.D. Vance said a real democracy has no censorship.
Right.
In his speech. They depend on censorship to stay in power.
Right.
Information is the most important tool we can use to weaken their power structure.
Right. That's why I really wanted to play the Data Republican, her interview. I know people were going to look at it like, oh, she's just a Republican, but I'm glad she got to explain that the more she has dug into it, she's not, that R is very, very little. It's more about, her morals and integrity, and that, yes, she's a conservative, a Republican, but she also likes to hold people accountable. She's not afraid to call out her, and I don't know how much, people really do. But, I watched this earlier, and the way she explained it between 990 forms and AI, I was doing that with Minneapolis and Minnesota organizations. And you would see they had board members that were either state legislators or in the House or the Senate. And then you would see all this money going. And I'm like, wait, why are we paying all these big old salaries, but yet we're not taking care of the people at home? We're not taking care of the people that really need this money, because most of it pays administration costs. And to run your nonprofit, even though you got your tax exempt, you don't have to pay taxes on any of that, the property, so it really made me look at things differently, especially when it came to, the nonprofits. It's especially like how we see it in Minnesota with New Way. We see it with Feeding Our Future. We see it with our daycare systems. Like, there's so much that have been, it's not just one party. Both sides have played a part in this. And you're definitely starting to, understand. And one thing that yesterday, I wasn't really going to talk about this till tomorrow, but I went to Rochester yesterday after I got off live, and I had a meeting. I really shouldn't call it a meeting, but I met I talked about, Jewel Adora a lot. Well, I met the people that run Jewel. We met at a restaurant in Rochester, and I got to meet Jewel in person, the little, whatever they want to call it, computer. And it looks really weird, but to know that, the conversation that I had with Jewel, especially about Minneapolis, and then, when it came down to other things like with Jamari and then with Amir, and there was connections because the superintendent that gave the CRT speech was their teachers. During their history, it was both sides of it. And then it came down to other connections with, being the shooter that killed Jamari was the judges. Even though it was married, it was still her nephew. You know what I'm saying? So there was connections, and I'm kind of glad that they have this. She put this website out, and she said, don't trust everything in it. But damn, it's, you know what I'm saying? You can do your own research. And I think, honestly, people are too scared to do it. They're scared to look at the facts. They're scared to look at the truth, is because everything that is done in the dark comes to light. And they don't like that. And so that's why I feel like, do we actually live in a democracy? Because, a lot of people get silenced for telling the truth, not for lying, but for telling the truth. And we look at it as they're lying because they're being censored. And that's what a lot of the big voices, the big like CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, our news media sites give us a narrative and not the truth. And we see that more and more and more every day. There's a couple things going on today, like in Minneapolis. The city council is meeting right now. It's a whole committee. It's about the YGVIs. Why should we give any money out? We should be exposing these companies, these nonprofits. I don't even know why I call them nonprofits, because they're companies. They've all used this for their profits, right? Taxpayer dollars to be able to waste and didn't have to prove nothing. So it's not on just, as more as I've looked into it, it hasn't just been my anger or my sadness comes from just being, the Democratic Party. It comes from being, knowing that the Republicans play a big part in this, a big part. And like, in my eyes, when are we going to come to a solution to the issue? Because until we get people out of the way, unless we get people out of the way, we won't come to a solution. We won't actually get to the main issue, because there's so many, it's so deep, and gatekeepers. That's the one thing that I'm going to do an episode this afternoon about this data Republican, because I'm going to play around. I'm probably do it about 1:00. But I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go through the data Republican, all these EINs, and I'm going to punch through different ones, because even just like with Feeding Our Future yesterday, you had a man that was a treasurer for a company he didn't know. He didn't know that he was the treasurer for Feeding Our Future. They were signing his name. And yet, even Jamal Osman's name came out, and people are still like, wait, what? It's because a lot of people aren't informed. They're not shocked. They're not surprised. They're just like, okay. So they brought up Mayor Frey's wife name. They brought out, Hilden, where she works at, where Luger's wife, all that shit. They don't ever want to talk about the connections. They don't ever want to talk about, why are these nonprofits being able to get all this money, and yet nothing ever changes. The streets are still wild. They're even worse in some cases. I think back, this is a big thing that we talked about yesterday. We talked about Target a little bit. And people, honestly, there's a protest tomorrow. I'm not going to, you guys do what you do. I'm not protesting. I'm not participating in no blackout, because I've done my research and data. And honestly, the bus boycott wouldn't have been the way that it was if it was just one day. If it was just one day, and research and data has shown us that it takes about 66 days of unity to actually make a dent. So if they really wanted to do something, there was a 90-day blackout that starts tomorrow, that if people unify and do, they can actually make a dent. Because if you don't shop at Amazon, Walmart, McDonald's, Target, you know, there's these companies that rule the nation, we'd make a difference. You know, and that's the one thing that I really want to get into today, because, you know, we all see what's going on with the fraud committee. Do they really have power? I've been going back and forth with state legislators about this committee, because in my eyes, they're not doing it right. You're asking her questions, but because you don't have subpoena power, she doesn't have to fucking answer. She came up there voluntarily to talk about shit. But if you don't have no subpoena power, she don't have to answer shit. So when you guys, Republicans, were asking tough questions Monday, she was like, well, I don't know, I have to get back to you. And you've seen what KSTP said, J. Cole's. So when you talk about it, they shut you up. They make it seem like, no, he's lying, they're lying. No, we can see with our own eyes. Yeah, you know, according to Data Republican, when you put that in there, no, they won't. They don't. And that's because at the end of the day, there's so many definitions to black. You know, when everybody, it doesn't matter if you're Jamaican, Haitian, the continent of Africa, even England, as long as you're black, that's what you're labeled as. They don't see it. That's the one crazy thing of it is because now if you look at black Americans, no, we're behind. And that's data. That's no lying to people, because I can show you the data. It's the politicians that profit for lying. That's why I say it's not about, you know, like VTOB. It's not about, because it's not about them personally. They profit off this shit. It's the fact that they're so loyal to their parties. And that's why it makes the politics scene here in Minnesota so crazy, because you do the research, you start to find a lot of names with power that have that, you know. So then when you start looking through the connections, and it's like, damn, why they get this much money every year? But then, you know, another thing that we talked about yesterday too was Philando Castile. That's back up at they're talking about Philando. Right. No. And that's what's crazy. You know, that's the one I really, you know what, I'm going to get into this, because Keith Ellison was supposed to come to Red Wing, Minnesota today, and do a presentation or something, I don't know, about Black History Month. But I will say this. Do you understand Philip Vance's name, his story? Timothy Magruder. The Vice Lords. I'm going to go with Jerry McAfee. The Vice Lords over North and South. Jerry Half. So until we can have those conversations about, you know, Black lives that he ruined while y'all out here screaming Black Lives Matter, then we can have a conversation. But until then, that whole BLM, the Black Lives Matter, shut the fuck up. And I mean that for anybody white, I don't, friend or not friend. If you wanted Keith Ellison to come talk to the youth while he has a history of not only beating women, but also screwing over and railroading the families of Black youth and who are Black men now that we're trying to free. He runs a conviction review unit. Why does he stay away from Philip Vance and Timothy Magruder's cases? Because he's involved. Because they expose him. They expose him. But yet, you know, they want to make it a political matter while he was canceled. No. Maybe it was. It was probably about politics because he said some shit about, the transgender and all that. And to be honest, we all know that the bakery, I mean, I don't know why I said the bakery because I don't fucking like the bakery anyways, but Red Wing is, even though they are very liberal leaning, that is a Republican ass city. Those people say Black Lives Matter, but I'm gonna tell you like this: behind closed doors, they calling all kinds of niggers, right? Because people like me and people before me, they scared people in Red Wing, especially when it came to leaders. So if you follow in with their system, which a lot of niggas do in Red Wing, right? They don't call it out. They abide by it because they only see what they want to see. They don't see the whole picture. They got tunnel vision. They see what they want to see. So that's why Red Wing doesn't get any change. Because the people that made Wigger Days happen are still in the fucking system. And you haven't got no accountability for that. They're still in the system. You got one of them as a school board member, Teresa Bornstad. Then you have a hypochondriac as another school board member. What kind of fucking shit is that? Where's the accountability? So then when we see things like all this waste and fraud happening, we take it more of into politics. Then, okay, this is wrong. And we need to do something about it. But because, like the lady said, there's a lot of people that have busy lives. But if you did, this is the crazy thing. If you punch a lot of shit about nonprofits into, I'll say her website, if you go to AI and do it, you'll see a lot of waste. You'll see a lot of fraud where they can't explain because they spent it personally. It's not about better. That's why I don't care about them out here protesting and boycotting Target for one day. Because where was everybody when Target is one of the biggest surveillance companies in the world? Why do you think that Target is across from the police department over South? They're every inch of that Target store is surveilled. Every inch of it, facial recognition. Because they wanted that Target on the other side of Lake Street, but they got to put there. And it made me really wonder because I'm from Minneapolis and I really dug into that shit. So when I seen that, when they told me about that, and I was like, damn, that does make sense. Because where were you going to put that over there by Lake Calhoun, by the lakes in Uptown? You really couldn't. But if you put that in the area where you can control, where you could operate, where you could, because now they got the public safety center over there now. People don't want to look at the bigger picture. They don't want to look at okay, we got corruption. Yeah, we do. But let's find out who allows the corruption, who allows the waste. Because there's a lot. There's a lot of churches that allow it. There's a lot of politicians that allow it and are getting paid both with the churches. Then you have gatekeepers, right? Bobby Champion's grandnephew, whatever the fuck you want to call him, grandson, whatever, pled guilty to over $3.5 million that he from PP loans or stuff that he was doing in Hennepin County when it came to nonprofits. I don't even get it. We are such a state where waste is rampant and people don't want to they think it's normal. And that's in my eyes, that's been wild to me. That's to be honest, that's been really, 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 really wild to me. I still can't understand that. Like, people come out here and talk about integrity. What the hell? what's right. They want to do what they feel like is going to get them paid. It's not about taking care of everybody. It's not even about doing the right thing. It's about how much can we profit off of this pain, this trauma. And it's like, wait, are you serious? Are you like, are you being serious? Or are you just like, I would think it was a joke, because the communities got worse, not better. And we've seen millions go out. And I'm talking about not even a little crumbles, but I'm talking about lots of money. And then people wonder why our communities look the way that they look. Because the money's been wasted. It's been fraudulently wasted. So I want to get into the money behind the mission, right? When federal funding controls the narrative. Because you're going to see in Minnesota, they talk about the domestic violence centers. Oh, we ain't got money to do this. Well, it's only 20% of the federal money that's going to your budgets. So if you're going to lose 20%, you can find that 20% somewhere else, because why don't you cut off your administration costs? Why don't you cut off the fact that you're paying your director $350,000 a year? Is he really worth that? Does he really need that much money? Because 250,000 you cut that from him, you cut another 100,000 from the other two, and boom, bam, wham. That takes care of that 20% you were getting federally.
A Minneapolis man with a pattern of domestic abuse is behind bars tonight, one day after he was convicted of murdering his girlfriend. Earlier this afternoon, the Hennepin County Sheriff used this case as an example of the importance of domestic violence services that may lapse if federal funds are taken away. Jessica Hart has more for us tonight. Jessica?
Julie, yesterday a jury found Johnny Brown guilty of murdering Keisha Moore. She was killed in December of 2023. This afternoon, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty says her murder was part of a pattern of domestic violence by Brown against women in his life. He's convicted of killing Moore at her Linden Hills apartment building. According to the criminal complaint, a family member told investigators the two had been living together for months and their relationship was rocky, so Moore asked Brown to move out. During the trial, 5 women testified about Brown's abuse. Moriarty believes that was a big reason why they were able to get justice for Moore.
I don't know that we could have had a successful case without it, but we are extremely thankful for their courage and their willingness to come across the country to talk about what had happened to them.
Of all the cases they received, Moriarty says domestic violence is the second highest category, which is why she's concerned about the potential impacts of federal funding freeze. Amathany Keefe with the Domestic Abuse Project says the federal government funds 20% of their work. She says they're at risk of losing staff in several services like screening, therapy, and case management. Keefe says the thought of cutting services is devastating because they're already understaffed.
We already are operating with less people than we should be. We turn people away every day that are calling for services because we are at capacity. We don't want people to sit on our list and wait.
What happens if these local organizations don't get money? The reality is they'll close.
Wow.
If they don't close, they'll have to cut down on their resources, on their ability to help people.
Keefe says
But
they
nothing
are
about
organizations in the state that
taking a pay
provide
cut
services.
for niggas that make all that money. Now, I don't know what's going on, right? I didn't really look into it, but I know that the city council just started. They were doing, I was watching it. I really couldn't tell, because I'm doing this, but I couldn't understand what was going on. But I seen there in recess, and Elliot Payne was making sure that shit was, I don't know, calling recess. I don't know what the fuck he was doing, but I'm assuming that there was some kind of disruption.
Councilmember Ellison.
Aye.
Councilmember Koski.
Aye.
Councilmember Wansley.
Aye.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Nay.
Councilmember Palmisano.
No.
Councilmember Chowdhury.
Aye.
Councilmember Cashman.
Aye.
Vice President Shugtai.
Aye.
President Payne.
Aye.
There are 9 ayes and 4 nays.
That motion carries. The veto is overturned and the legislative directive is adopted. The next order of business is the presentation of report.
Get out of here, man.
Osmond.
So L Flowers.
Mr. Flowers, please. We are going to take a 5-minute recess.
So it was L. That's why. That's interesting. So it was L Flowers that made them go into recess. All about that they, and to be honest, I know 38th in Chicago is a big ass moneymaker. So it doesn't shock me, but L Flowers went up there. That does shock me. And then Jenkins, she voted. That's why I feel like she's gonna lose this election. You know, it'll be Soren. He is a joke. He is. It's the same thing. You know, they have a basketball program that just basically, and I feel bad for the Red Bears in Little Earth, but they were the other program that they were a third party. You know, they were trying to keep the kids together instead of centralizing it. And to be honest, I feel like they need to centralize for competition reasons, because back in the day, that's how we did it. You lived in that neighborhood, that's who you played for. It went off where your address was. That's who you played for. It doesn't matter if you lived in the, I played at Powderhorn Park for a while, played for their teams. I played for Stewart Park. I played for, all that rec. I remember back in the day, one of the classiest, I shouldn't say classiest, but rivalries was Martin Luther King Park, which is in South Minneapolis. And then you had like Powderhorn, or you had North Commons. There were some big ass rivalries. And I do feel like we need to get back to that. So if people lived in the area that they played for, I think there would be more love and more unity going on than the divide that we have right now, which is fucking wild. You know what I'm saying? We all understand that what's going on is wild, and what can we do about it? I don't know if there's there's much that we can do, but we can try. I know I say trying is lying all the time, but what else? If you're not trying, we got to do something. I'm gonna be honest. We definitely have to do something, because people aren't even attempting. They're not even showing that. And that's what I said, is like everybody wants to complain about the money, but nobody wants to talk about where the money's going or how it's being used. They say, oh, we're going to lose this. We're going to lose employees. But if these people took pay cuts, if it was more about the people, because it's always about money. Because they don't, in Minnesota, do they really help domestic violence? In my eyes, no. In some cases, but in a lot of situations, no. You have women out here that are scared, that are frightful. And honestly, do they care? No, because we have politicians that, you care more. You don't care more anything about American people, or, it's more about the people that bring in the money, because that's why they want to stop this funding. That's why they want to freeze it, is there's a lot of waste involved. There's a lot of waste that these politicians, these directors, these executives, they say that it's needed, but is it? Because a lot could be done if there wasn't so much waste in America, especially when it came to our nonprofits. And I really wanted to laugh about this, and I thought it was kind of ridiculous, because they joined this lawsuit, St. Paul and Minneapolis, with San Francisco, and they're suing the Trump administration and Doge. And in my eyes, why is it that we're these democratic cities again? And it's like, why? Everything has been done in the dark, so why not bring it to the light? I know that it's being played as a political matter, but really, should it be? Because it should be about the people. And the people should be pissed at both sides, not just Democrats, but it's both sides that have allowed this and have participated and benefit from the fraud and waste.
Right now, both Minneapolis and St. Paul are suing the Trump administration over plans to withhold federal funding if the cities interfere with the deportation of illegal immigrants. Both cities making the announcement within the last 3 hours. Joe McCoy has been following the story throughout the day and joins us live with the latest. Joe?
Julie, I first want to read a statement we received from a Minneapolis city spokesperson. It says, quote, "The city's policy is clear. The city does not operate its programs for the purpose of enforcing federal immigration laws." And back here in St. Paul, Mayor Carter also making it clear that the city will not be threatened into assisting federal agents in the deportation of undocumented immigrants.
At the heart of this lawsuit is a challenge to actions that violate the U.S. Constitution.
St. Paul and the White House are now in a legal battle over undocumented immigrants. This all centers around a White House memo from January that says St. Paul and other sanctuary cities shall not receive access to federal funds if they interfere with the deportation of undocumented immigrants.
In St. Paul, we are currently relying on approximately $260 million in receivable federal funding.
This lawsuit by St. Paul is in conjunction with San Francisco and looks to block the Trump administration from being able to not release those funds.
The federal government may not compel state and local governments to enact or administer federal regulatory programs. This is a constitutional violation.
At the heart of those impacted are people that Trahas Brahani at Destra Immigration Services help serve.
A lot of my people that I serve are scared. Someone that came to Minnesota, for example, for fearing persecution from their home country should still be able to at least apply for asylum and go through the justice process.
The council is committed to ensuring that all residents feel safe and have access to city services regardless of their immigration status. This commitment is reflected in St. Paul's separation ordinance, which our council passed in 2004.
That separation ordinance, in part, states local law enforcement will only uphold local immigration policies.
We do not accept the proposal of this executive order unlawfully holding hostage federal funds as ransom against an unlawful political demand.
City officials talked a lot today about public safety and ensuring that all residents, regardless of their citizenship status, can feel safe and that they can rely on emergency personnel.
Shit, we can't even rely on that shit.
At our rescue, we are.
That's the one crazy thing of it is these people out here making it, oh, we'll protect you, we'll do this, but y'all won't even come when niggas get shot, when people call about their houses getting robbed. But I don't understand this, man. And it's like, that's the whole thing of it is y'all train for people to do that are doing their jobs, all because you don't agree with their politics. And it's the law. It's the law. And you get mad. And that's the one thing of it is people get mad that, and I honestly, I can see this, right? Because the Democrats up the yin yang with DWIs, robberies, it doesn't matter to them because they come out and they do training to support criminals that break the law. And because it benefited people in Congress, they passed this TPS. They passed these visas that people obviously overuse. I just want people to be, if you're here in America, do it legally. Because there's all types of people out here, there's stories. And I will say this, we could all be united if people just called it out, call out your friends. Because you say you got years of history, but what matters more, your history, being friends with them, or your love for the community that you say you fight for? That's what I say. I really want to know, because is it about politics and is it about money? Then doing the right thing. I was going to talk about egg prices, but I don't, everybody knows, everybody can see that, man. It's, what I'm saying? I don't know what we can do to make egg prices go down, We all know that there's, the fires that have hit processing plants. We have seen the, bird flu and things like that. And honestly, shit, eggs are getting out of hand. I ain't even gonna lie. That's one thing in America that used to be the cheapest with protein, with eating healthy and shit. Now that's one of the most expensive things on our breakfast plates is eggs, and something that honestly we need to talk about when it comes to all these flus and things that affect our produce, our I don't know what you call it, produce, our poultry or whatever, but things that we eat and we survive off of. So because they're putting a lot of products that are made in laboratories or research facilities that we're eating, even with our chicken. I mean, people talk about that laboratory made chicken all day. Are we not honestly, that's the one thing that I will say. They label and so many different eggs. You got range, you got cage free, and all, organic. Now, I'm gonna tell you like this: how many of those came out of a laboratory that's either been cloned or you're not eating a real, egg. You're eating something that was made in a scientific, study.
Are high now. The USDA says it's going to get worse. As the bird flu continues to wreak havoc in the industry, there's a new plan to fix it.
That includes importing eggs from other countries, direct help for farmers, and work on a vaccine. Ben Henry visited a smaller local farm where eggs are flying off the shelves.
Up this Farmington driveway. All right, this is the mobile store. Brand Farms has one of the hottest tickets in town. Eggs. This carton and the rest on the shelves expected to be gone by closing.
Right from the farm.
Right from the farm. These eggs were laid yesterday. Aaron Brand says they now have 2,100 egg-laying chickens, up from 50 when they started 20 years ago. Demand is through the roof. And while they once sold to restaurants and grocery stores, Brand says they had to stop because of the strong appetite from neighbors. I have never seen it like this before. Demand driven by an industry in chaos. The bird flu outbreak has resulted in the killing of tens of millions of chickens, sending egg prices soaring. Their costs, the USDA expects to rise about 40% more still this year. But now, there's a new plan to get a handle on this problem. The White House sharing its billion-dollar plan that includes improved biosecurity measures for poultry producers, financial relief for farmers, and development of a vaccine for laying chickens. And then 2 dozen eggs. Back on the farm, customers are steady, like the Reyes family.
If I'm going to pay more for eggs, I want to support a guy that's putting the hard work and sweat and trying to support their family.
The Brands say they've been spared. No bird flu here. Still, they'll prepare for the worst. Probably within the next couple weeks, there will be some change here where we will limit where the general public has access to, while hoping for the best. It seems like it's worse now than it's ever been. Brand Farm says they had to increase their price by about $1. They did say they had to limit how many cartons people can buy as well. They tell me they didn't want to do that move, but they felt more people were buying more than they needed and then reselling. And that's not what they want to be part of.
Right. We've seen that before.
They love their customers, helping out their neighbors that need some eggs. And it's an interesting kind of situation.
Yeah, that's crazy as hell because it's going to go up and the American people are going to suffer. I wanted to talk a little bit about Feeding Our Future because that nonprofit scandal, there was a mechanic who testified yesterday who didn't know that he was the treasurer. And in my eyes, that's big because a lot of money was going to Feeding Our Future and all this waste and fraud, man. It's to be honest, it's crazy. It's like, when are we going to call out the wrong done in our communities? I really want to know, when are we going to call out the wrong that people are doing, are legally allowed to do, but we know it's wrong. We understand because Minnesota doesn't have no kickback laws and, all those things like that. Doesn't mean that the feds don't. And we need to start saying something, because if we want our communities to get better, we have to call out the hard part. We got to be brave and stand up to our friends that are doing wrong. Because I will tell you like this, I'm no saint. I'm a sinner too. But I would say like this, there's a lot of shit that literally I used to think was okay that isn't anymore. And I was a part of that. I was a part of dealing drugs. I was a part of seeing the pimps and the prostitutes and, you know, drug dealers and all that. I'm not okay with that no more, because I understand that we are a part of the problem, because we don't want to look in the mirror and we don't want to look at our friends. We don't want to look at our loved ones and be like, you know what? You're part of the wrong that is being done in our communities. And if we want to be better, we can't just talk about it. We got to do it. We got to show the actions of doing better.
45 minutes, court wrapped up for the day in the ongoing Feeding Our Future trial. And today, jurors heard from 2 men who testified that they had no idea their names and businesses were being used in the multi-million-dollar scheme. Lou Raguse caught up with one of them right after they took the stand, and he joins us now live from the courthouse. Lou?
Julie, this afternoon, the jury heard evidence that only 3 to 5% of the children's names submitted for these meal counts were even potentially legitimate. And before that, frustration from 2 men who, through no fault of their own, got roped into this case. The testimony of Jamie Phelps in the Feeding Our Future trial drew laughs from the jury.
Federal court, knock it off the bucket list.
About the haphazard organization of Amy Bach's nonprofit.
So you had no idea you were on the Feeding Our Future board?
It's news to me.
The mechanic from Eagan says he agreed to join a board, wanting to help Bach out, while chatting with her at his neighbor's backyard bonfire. But he had no idea she followed through with it, making him treasurer and submitting multiple documents to the state with his forged signature, claiming he approved the budgets of the nonprofit that grew to process hundreds of millions of dollars in reimbursements during the pandemic. In his testimony, Phelps didn't even know the name of the nonprofit, calling it Feeding Our Friends.
Pretty ridiculous.
Another witness, Sir Boxing Club owner Ceriso Fort, who is in the business of helping kids.
It's a safe haven for the youth that's in this community.
Husband.
Fort testified
That's
he had no
crazy.
idea Bach was using his club's 2021 location as a meal site, sponsored by and run by Feeding Our Future. Fort remembers someone handing out free lunches at noon to the kids he trained, but in reimbursement paperwork shown to the jury, Bach claimed she was serving 2,500 kids there every day, collecting nearly $2 million in federal child nutrition funds at Feeding Our Future. 2 witnesses frustrated to be pulled into the $250 million
Wait, I'm going to stop it for a second, because
run by Feeding Our Future. Fort remembers someone handing out free lunches.
do not. So this is Georgia Fort. Yes, that's Georgia Fort's husband. Yes, that's wild. Why hasn't that come up? Why hasn't that been something that people should talk about when it came to, you know, damn, that's wild, because now it's not only just, wow. A lot of people bypass that. A lot of people in Minnesota bypassed that Georgia Ford's husband was involved. Wow.
At noon to the kids he trained, but in reimbursement paperwork shown to the jury, Bach claimed she was serving 2,500 kids there every day, collecting nearly $2 million in federal child nutrition funds at Feeding Our Future. 2 witnesses frustrated to be pulled into the $250 million fraud case without their knowledge.
What do you hope happens in this case?
The truth comes out.
Now, in cross-examination regarding the boxing gym, Amy Bach's lawyer tried to insinuate that perhaps there was another meal site on Arcade Street in St. Paul, but the paperwork that was shown to us in the courtroom seemed to show that Bach had only removed the name of Sir Boxing Gym from the paperwork, and there really was not much cross-examination at all regarding Jamie Phelps, the treasurer of Feeding Our Future. Back to you.
Well, just when you think it can't get more absurd.
Absurd, right, it does.
And he seems to me, the supposed treasurer seems like he's taking it in good spirits. To be tied with your name to the biggest pandemic fraud in the country would be pretty jarring.
So damn, that now I see why Georgia has really stayed out of the Feeding Our Future, because it involved her husband. That's fucking crazy. And I really hope that there's people in the community that be like, hey, we need answers. we need answers to be questioned. We need to ask questions, and they need to be answered. There ain't no more ducking this shit. That's crazy as hell. I want to get back to, the whole Keith Ellison thing, about him coming to Red Wing. And because, so there was a student that made a post yesterday that was in Red Wing, right? And he stated that as a Red Wing high school student, that he was quite bummed to hear about the cancellation of Keith Ellison visiting our school as a speaker. Most kids also were very bummed, but it seems like a lot of parents were against it and such. I think it should be up to the student and school's eyes, not the parents' eyes, at all who comes to visit and speak for the school. After reading all the nice and also very nice comments on the post made earlier, I am very disappointed. This was supposed to be an amazing speech about the first African American to be elected to a statewide office in Minnesota. Not dumb allegations. Every official has allegations or bad things about them. Just disappointed and thought I should share my point of view as someone who actually attends the school daily. Xavier, this is very good written, right? I'm not disagreeing. What I'm saying is that, this was all about politics. It wasn't about Black Lives Matter. It's the things that he said in the media the last couple of days, right? Let's be honest, it's been more of a political point than anything else. And so Xavier, he got back to me and he said, Charles Neal, it's 100% was so sickening. Everything is about politics nowadays. Yes, that's what I really want people to see, is that there's nothing that politics doesn't leave out. Your whole life is political. And I stated this to Megan Sui. She's part of the downtown council, right? And I was expecting this from somebody that, especially a white person who has that white guilt, who has white tears, and I said this like this, right? She said, because Megan put out there, first of all, I'm proud of you for this post. I am too. It takes a lot of bravery and tenacity to post on social media, and especially in this group. Some are bullies in here that like to write a lot of things that probably wouldn't say to your face. I'm really sorry that the Attorney General had to cancel. I'm sure he hated to do so, but things are growing more and more dangerous. I know I don't have to tell you or other people of color this. While I do not know you personally, I value you and I'm glad you are in our community. I agree with that 100%. My thing, if it was, have you spoke about all the Black youth he's railroaded? I asked Megan that. Have you spoke about Philip Vance? Have you spoke about Timothy Magruder? And that's the whole thing. We got to stop getting away from the whole allegations, because there's a lot of things that, because of money, they don't want to prosecute. They don't want to go after the police. The system doesn't want to go after. So in my eyes, why are we, whoops, I should put it up there for y'all to see, my bad. But why should we? You know what I'm saying? And that's the one crazy thing. People, of course, it's political of why they canceled Keith, right? I don't know what kind of threats they received, but I really liked Betsy Covert's comment. And she said, we all are entitled to our opinion, and you should never be sticked, right? They were. However, Keith Ellison is very political, not a historian. If there is an issue, it should be addressed. I have grandchildren of combined race, and they have not experienced an issue. That being said, it does not mean it doesn't happen. Perhaps the school should hire a Black history professor, someone that has the background and acknowledge that U.S. students can utilize. I don't believe the person who was supposed to come would have allowed students to think for themselves. He would only give his opinion. I definitely agree. I definitely agree, right? I had put a post up, a comment, right? And I said, if people knew that the first Black man elected as Attorney General in Minnesota has railroaded a lot of innocent Black kids in Minneapolis, but y'all say Black Lives Matter, but do they actually matter? talk about that, Xavier. Don't be a token one. We have great leaders in Red Wing that are Black and kept quiet. I bet you have not learned this in school, that in 1893, a Black man was lynched down by the river to show other railroad workers not to come from Chicago during the strike. Now, if you went to the history, this is all there. But again, they don't teach you all that in school. They're not showing the real history. So we get put a Black man, of course, and he's the first Black man. The same thing they do with Craig Morris, Beth Bradeen's brother. It's all about being a token. It's never about getting to the history. It's never getting about to the facts of person being Black and the struggle and the plights that we had to go through, and that we still are going through to this day. That's what's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So if we really wanted to talk about, history and we wanted to talk about Black people, about how they mattered and about, well, then we should really do that. I'm gonna be honest. We should really, really, really do that. We shouldn't be just talking about it. There should be something that we should be making strategized plans. But yet we should also be calling out people that are supposedly for the community. But when you look at them, that's not the actual way that they are. You know what I'm saying? That's all a facade. That's all, cosplayers. And, to be honest, I don't know if we'll ever come to a conclusion in society or in the world of where we see people as they do good. I do think that we'll always have organizations, nonprofits, because a lot of them actually probably do good work. A lot of them do a lot of great work for the community. But actually, is it for the community? Here's one thing that I want. Let me show this. So this is on that website. And so they were exploring the connections like never before. We're giving you a first look at people relations mapping networks with Jeffrey Epstein as the anchor node. And guess what? Each of these connections has their own graphs too. Don't worry how ugly it is. We'll make it look beautiful as always. But people need to look at this. This was a lot of connections, to people, to Pizzagate, to, Representative Epstein, Associate Lex Wexner, Bill Gates, MIT, Fox News. And a lot of people will say that it's conspiracy theories. Well, we all know what conspiracy theories are. Now in America, it's called people are telling the truth, and they don't want you to see that. To be honest, because I know I'm over here stuttering, but to be honest, I don't know how the hell to get up out of this. It's like, a lot of this, yeah, I don't know, because a lot of friendships would be over with. A lot of people would lose because this shit is deep. And it's not just on Democrats, it's Republicans as well. It's not just one-sided, it's both-sided. It's, because they're the same spoon, it's the same fork. You're not getting anything different. Just because you think you're voting Republican, you're getting something different. No, it doesn't work that way. You're still getting the same quarter, no matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat. You're getting the same shit unless they're for the people, unless they're for something bigger. And that's why I understand about, TC or Lisa Hansen or Rebecca Whiting, who's a libertarian. I understand about the different views. That we shouldn't really vote on political parties. We should really be independent voters and vote on policies. Get out of that rut of voting for the lesser of two evils, because they're both evil. You're looking at, how are we weighing two evils? when they're the same. No matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican, it is the same. You know what I'm saying? So I hope everybody enjoyed this. I will be back this afternoon with another episode. And I will be going through these 990 forms. And I want to continue. I want to show people how to get this information, how to look at it, and see who is fake and fraudulent in your communities. So with that being said, win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well, and I'll see y'all later.
Don't owe you nothing. I don't need no apology. I just need my serenity. I don't owe you nothing. No apology. I don't need your sympathy. Yeah. I don't owe you.
I was just driving, now it's hands where we can see him. I was just driving, now it's hands where we can see him. Even in blackface, I'm not black enough. Fuck that. Matter of fact, I'm so black, I spell black without the C. I'm so black, my smile's the last thing you'll see the night I die. I line all my hoodies with my last will and testament. The fact that I still run at night is testament to my will. I don't think that's what they meant when they said looks can't kill. But that's just another colonial colloquialism. Cause every black man knows it takes less than a look to end up on the wrong side of a bullet. Or they take your pride for a ride and try to make you feel less than a man. I was 19 years old when I was arrested for less than a gram. Fun fact, I'm 5'10", 210. My official police report says I'm 6'2", 220. Ask me why. I think we all know why. How can I be a 10-point buck and a grizzly bear at the same time? I don't think y'all understand the scope of the contradiction. Hunting season's never over, always looking over your shoulder. Hunting season's never over, always looking over your shoulder. Even in blackface, I'm not black enough. Even in blackface, I'm not black enough. Even in blackface, I'm not black enough. Blackface, I'm not blackface, I'm not blackface, I'm not blackface, I'm not black enough. Black queen raised a black man, just smile on his face with period blood and says welcome to the menstrual cycle. My favorite Kevin Hart special is laugh at my pain and I can still taste the pain on my lips. With power to that pain, welcome to the kings of comedy. Black queen raised a black man. Paul Mooney said always keep him laughing. He also said Wayne Brady isn't black. Kettle meat teapot, argue over whose heat's heat hot. Welcome to the black conundrum. Take your pride, divided by danger, multiplied by the coefficient attitude, and just for the variable of how many times you fuck with that day. Charmin, soft teddy bears always make it home at night. But black women don't see comfort in softness. And this bear's been poked one too many times. I was just driving, now it's hands where we can see him. Hands where we can see him. Is this your